Hi and welcome to the news headlines at this hour. More than 500,000 coronavirus cases have been confirmed in South Africa, according to the country's health minister Zwelithini Mkhize, announced 10,107 new cases on Saturday, bringing the tally to 5,03,290 along with 8,153 deaths. South Africa is the hardest hit country on the continent and accounts for half of all reported infections in Africa. It also has the fifth largest number of cases in the world after the US, Brazil, Russia and India. The vote to renominate President Donald Trump is set to be conducted in private later this month. Without members of the press present, a spokeswoman of the Republican National Convention citing the coronavirus. While Trump called off the public components of the convention in Florida last month, citing spiking cases of the virus across the country, 336 delegates are scheduled to gather in Charlotte, North Carolina on August 24th to formally vote to make Trump the GOP standard bearer once more. Nominating conventions are traditionally meant to be media bonanzas as political parties seek to leverage the attention the events draw to spread their message to as many voters as possible. If the GOP decision stands, it will mark the first party nominating convention in modern history to be closed to reporters. Thousands of demonstrators gathered outside the official residence of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday and thronged the streets of central Jerusalem as weeks of protests against the Israeli leader appeared to be gaining steam. The demonstration in central Jerusalem, along with smaller gatherings in Tel Aviv, near Netanyahu's beach house in central Israel, and at dozens of busy intersections nationwide, was one of the largest turnouts in weeks of protests. Throughout the summer, thousands of Israelis have taken to the streets calling for Netanyahu to resign, protesting his handling of the country's coronavirus crisis and saying he should not remain in office while on trial for corruption charges. Though Netanyahu has tried to play down the protests, the twice-a-week gatherings show no signs of slowing. Travelers entering France from 16 countries where the coronavirus is circulating widely must now undergo virus tests upon arrival at the French airports and ports. French Prime Minister Jean Castex announced last month that the test will be required starting August 1st for passengers entering France, allowing in from a list of approved countries unless they present proof of a negative test done within 72 hours of their departure. Those who test positive in France as of Saturday must quarantine for 14 days. France is not permitting general travel to and from 16 countries, which include the United States and Brazil. The testing requirement therefore only applies to people entering under limited circumstances. French citizens who live in these countries or citizens of these countries with an established residence in France. Should former Vice President Joe Biden win the White House in November, America will likely be in for a foreign policy about face as Biden reverses, dismantles or severely curtails many of President Donald Trump's most significant and boldest actions. From the Middle East to Asia, Latin America to Africa, and particularly Europe, and on issues including trade, terrorism, arms control, and immigration, the presumptive Democratic nominee and his advisors have vowed to unleash a tsunami of change in how the US handles itself in the international arena. With few exceptions, Americans could expect Biden to rearrange with traditional allies. Whether iconoclastic Trump has used blunt threats and insults to press his case, Biden, a former senator, would be more inclined to seek common ground. Thousands protested Germany's coronavirus restrictions on Saturday in a Berlin demonstration marking what organizers called the end of the pandemic. A declaration that comes just as authorities are voicing increasing concerns about an uptick in new infections. With few masks in sight, a dense crowd marched throughout downtown Berlin from the Brandenburg Gate. Protesters who came from across the country held up homemade signs with slogans like Corona false alarm, we are being forced to wear a muzzle, natural defense instead of vaccination, and we are second wave. The SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft shoved off from the International Space Station on Saturday with 2 US astronauts on board, beginning their journey back to Earth despite a storm threatening Florida. NASA footage showed the capsule drifting slowly away from the ISS in the darkness of space, ending a 2-month stay for the first US astronauts to reach the orbiting lab on an American spacecraft in nearly a decade. And they are off, the US Space Agency tweeted, with Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken set to splash down Sunday. Previous. 7 people, including an Alaska state lawmaker, died on Friday when 2 small airplanes collided in midair near the airport in Sultana, a small community on Alaska's Kenai Peninsula. Alaska State Troopers said State Rep Gary Knob, 67, of Kenai was sole occupant of one plane. The other plane was flown by a local pilot and carried a guide from Kansas and 4 people from South Carolina. This is an unfathomable tragedy for multiple families today, Alaska Department of Public Safety Commissioner Amanda Prince said. Troopers and partner agencies have worked together diligently at the scene and have reached out to next of kin to notify them of this heartbreaking incident. Previous. The Duchess of Sussex may not receive the vital support of her friends as witnesses in a court battle over claims that her privacy was breached, it has emerged. Lawyers for Meghan have said it would be an unacceptably high price for the Duchess to be forced to identify the friends in pursuit of a legal claim against the Mail on Sunday, and that it would be a cruel irony should she be required to pay it. She is arguing that naming them would breach their privacy under the European Convention on Human Rights, while the newspaper argues that they must be disclosed as a key principle of open justice. But it claimed that the prospect of being named in court, as normal procedure would require, has left them reluctant to take the witness stand voluntarily on Meghan's behalf. This is Jyoti reporting for Our Voice. Previous.